Let me make sure that we're live.
Set it up so that we're equal, so that I'm not, can you split the screen so that I'm not small and you're big? Do you know how to do that?
Like that? Are we live on there right now?
We're live now, but yeah, we're live.
All right. I haven't used Be Live for a while. Hi, guys. Welcome to the feed. There we go. Welcome. It's a great honor and pleasure to, let me fix this, introduce you to Jay Rothman. He's been incredible inspiration in my life and also many others. My friends, my family members, Amber, we met, wow, what was it, about almost a year ago, right, Jay?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think it was probably right around, maybe right about this time ago. Yeah, because it was Amber was getting ready to. You guys were getting prepped to go to QRT in March.
Yeah.
And so that's when Amber and I met and just jumped in and did some work together.
Yeah, and I remember the first time I met you face to face, it just started pouring out, man, because there was something there, like, and so a little backstory about our relationship. Jay had me on his show, what was it, like probably about a year ago, and we talked about addiction, and it was incredibly powerful. It was so much fun. It opened my eyes a lot to self-discovery and some of the things that I learned throughout breaking my addiction and also moving past the addiction. For those that don't know, I had an addiction with gambling, and Jay is an addiction expert as well. And he was able to conquer many addictions, and we connected on a level that was incredible. And I just knew, like, when I saw him in person for the first time, I knew that there was a connection, a really deep connection with us. And what happened this weekend brought us even closer to understanding this thing, self-love, I believe. And the conversation that we had this weekend was incredibly powerful. So Jay, do you want to, what you remember briefly? I did take some notes. Do you want to kind of start with the conversation that we had, like a little bit about that?
Sure. Well, first of all, thank you for inviting me to jump on tonight and to be part of your group this evening. And thank those of you that are welcoming with such love in this moment. I'm seeing the comments come in on my feed. It's an honor to be here with you in this moment. It's also an honor to be part of your family's life. Yeah, you guys make it easy to fall in love. But it wasn't always that way. See, I didn't have the ability to truly connect with people and fall in love for most of my life, because for me to have the open heart and space to be able to trust others, I had to first learn how to trust myself. I had to first learn how to like myself. Now, I'm not talking about the like from the ego space, the head space. There is a lot of pats on the back. There were a lot of accolades. There were awards and a lot of bonuses and a lot of money made. But I didn't like who I was. And by the time I hit my own rock bottom, I knew who I had become, but I didn't know who I was. I got lost in a lifetime of unhealthy choices, unhealthy behaviors, and broken relationships by the time it was all said and done. And for me, the healing journey began when I had to learn how to set some boundaries, which is something I was very fearful of in my own life. It was something I didn't know how to do, and I was intimidated by that process. And I remember early on, I was just a couple of months out of the hospital, and the therapist that I saw for a very brief time, he was the last therapist that I walked into the office with. He said to me, "You're going to have to learn how to trust yourself." And I didn't ask him what he meant by that, because it appeared so, on the surface, so easy to comprehend. And it truly wasn't until this year that I really reflected back on that statement, and I finally understand what he meant. And it wasn't about trusting myself, about um, the little things in life. It was truly trusting not my head space, but my heart space, learning how to listen for the answers to come from within.
Absolutely.
And to begin to trust that, even if it meant the answer was against cultural beliefs, family beliefs, friendships beliefs, social media beliefs. It didn't matter what other people thought. It didn't matter what other people's opinions were. What came down to was it only mattered how I felt. And in a knowing, understanding how to tap into what the real truth is, and to trust the truth is in fact the truth. There is no others. Yep. Even if it's not the truth for you, that's okay. My truth is my knowing, and to learn how to trust that. What I've learned is that if I had listened to all the people outside of myself share their opinions, their thoughts based on their own belief systems or based on their own fears or worries or their own lack of courage to make some decisions that perhaps I had chosen to do, I wouldn't be alive today if I had listened to all the people outside of me. And so I share this with you, Christian, because what's most important is for all of us to learn that we don't have to ask 3 people or 5 people for their opinions, because that's just going to confuse us even more. Mm-hmm. What's most important is to learn how to sit with your thought, with your feeling long enough to have the answer come from within you. And then once you know what's right, that's all that matters. It's your truth. Now, even if it means it's painful, and even if it turns out where it doesn't feel comfortable through the process, we're going to learn what we need to learn. I said to you earlier today, when we're celebrating, we're not learning. We're just celebrating. We're just dancing. Mm-hmm. We only learn when we step into the pain, when we step into discomfort. Mm-hmm. And on the other side of that, when we break through that feeling is where we have the growth spurt. It's how we grow.
The conversation that we had yesterday was it showed me a lot. And basically it kind of went like this. I wrote down kind of what we had initially conversated about, and it kind of goes like this. So Jay asked me, we were going through the process. He knows what was going on with this particular incident. It was very traumatic. It was a situation where I had to make decisions, and there was some pressure in regards to how they would turn out, because it was a life or death situation in many ways, but it was very traumatic for us. And so I told Jay what I was going to do, and he said this to me. He said, "What is your intention?" And I said, I need to set the boundaries to show that there is love and not abandonment, but I also need to gauge the temperature with this particular situation to see what my next move was what my next move was. And then Jay asked me, "Who are you doing this for?" And I had to take a couple minutes and really think about that, because at first I started thinking I'm doing this for the other person involved. And then it clicked. And then it clicked to me. It said, no. I said, I'm setting these boundaries for me to guide me. The boundaries that I set are not for the other person to be guided, and it doesn't matter if they cross those boundaries or not, because if I'm in those boundaries, I'm guiding myself and I'm loving myself and I'm allowing myself to operate and it was an incredible breakthrough for me. But Jay, like he pulled that out of me. He showed me, like, by asking these questions, kind of his process and what he goes through as well. So maybe we could talk about your process and what you do to guide yourself with love, and especially emphasizing on the self-love portion aspect of that.
Well, I want to share that. I said this to you earlier today, is that you're very approachable, and you're so open, and you have such a soft soul, such a soft heart space, that you make
Thank
it
you.
really easy to be in a relationship with.
Mm-hmm.
Truly, a relationship where you're so open to receive, and you're so open to be honest. And I think that's ultimately, as a coach, that's like the greatest gift a client can give to us, because
Mm-hmm.
you see, in the coaching business, I don't believe that I'm in business to help people. I spent a lifetime trying to help and save people,
Yeah.
and it didn't work out so well for them, and it certainly didn't work out well for me. I'm not in the business of helping people today. I'm here to inspire people, to just inspire them that change is possible. We just have to have the courage. And what the courage is really about is, it's about growing up. It's about
Mm-hmm.
learning how to parent yourself, learning how to love yourself enough to take responsibility for your choices, for your actions, for your behaviors, even for your thoughts. And therein lies, truly, when we can start to feel the benefits of what self-love feels like. It's not like a light switch that we just flip on and we flip off. It's like, okay, I love
Mm-hmm.
myself today, or, oh no, today I
Yeah.
don't love myself. It's not about flipping a switch. It's about opening your heart space, yourself, to your truths. And part of that is ultimately is learning how to pay attention to what your needs are, not in the head space, but in your heart space. And we talked a lot
Mm-hmm.
about being a child. You're in a child,
Yeah.
and we touched on how it's so important that you're paying attention to what he needs right now in this moment, as you are navigating through some critical moments here. And most importantly is that I know this, is I'm 58 years old today, not today, but I mean, right in this moment.
Mm-hmm.
And I spent 54 years of my life waiting for people to show up and take care of me. It was my mom, and then it was my wife, who today is my ex-wife. And between those two women, it was 54 years waiting for someone to show up and love me and make me feel good, feel better about myself, so I could be happy. And I had to learn that I had it all. I had it all backwards. It wasn't their responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
Only my mom's, up until the time I could be self-sufficient. But past that day, whenever that was, whatever age that was at, it wasn't my mom's responsibility to caretake me anymore, to take care of me, to make me happy, to make me feel better about myself. It certainly wasn't my wife's. I had to learn the hard way that it's no one's responsibility to provide that service to me or for me. It is ultimately my responsibility to do that for myself. Taking it from the perspective of that little boy who I refer to as JJ, is still very much alive inside of me. And my job today, that's my role, is to parent my own self and pay attention to what his needs are, so that he's not feeling angry, scared, lonely, hungry, tired, bored. And boy, that boy
Mm-hmm.
gets bored quite often. He likes to
Yeah.
play, right? So if I'm working 12, 15 hours a day, and I'm not taking breaks to get something to eat or take a break for any good reason, I'm ignoring his needs, and I'm just feeding my ego space. And so I'm being a bad parent.
Mm-hmm.
And the first
Yeah.
step to learn how to love yourself is to learn how to take care of yourself.
That's interesting because that's actually what I wrote next. I said it's the parent and the child. This relationship we have with ourselves is like a parent and a child. These two must be in agreement and in harmony with boundaries and foundation. So the self-love relationship is very much like it's two kind of entities or kind of like energies coming together, but often what causes the external desire for that is going to be when these things are not aligned, like when the parent is not guiding the child and the child is not telling the parent what the parent needs to guide the child. These two things are both looking outside for each one of those things, and the self-love goes out the window. But when you start to like for me, the breakthrough yesterday was I thought I was setting the boundary so my dad wouldn't cross that. So, well, no, my dad wouldn't cross that. I was setting the boundary so I wouldn't cross that myself. That's the respect that I took for myself and the love that I showed myself. And by that, I was able to gauge it doesn't matter who's going to cross what boundary. Because if I don't cross that boundary, I'm good. And I know that that parent is guiding that child and saying, here's a boundary, but let's have fun with it. And the two forces can come together and start searching for from the outside a thing that guides it.
Let's break it down real simple, Christian.
Yeah.
You touched on something in this moment here. You talked about you've got the inner child and you've got your adult self, your higher self. But there's a third entity that is in play. Mm-hmm. There's three parts. We refer to it as me, myself, and I, right?
Yeah.
There's three parts to who we are. Me, myself, and I is we've got the inner child, we've got the adult self, and then we have that ego space.
Yeah.
Now, one of those three is always kind of leading the way. One of those three is always very present in the moment. In any given day that we are breathing, it's either our ego that's driving, that's got his hand or her hand on a 10 and 2 position on the steering wheel. And ego wants to be in control because ego's had control most of our lives unconsciously. We've been asleep. We've been unawakened. And ego's been managing, controlling my life, I could tell you that. And ego's role was born around age 5 on the average person was developed. And ego's role is to protect. But here's the problem with ego. My understanding of ego is very lazy. Ego doesn't want to do the work. Ego likes shortcuts. Ego wants to take the shortest route to get to the destination, even if it means putting you in danger, even if it means picking up an addiction behavior. Mm-hmm. Food, for example. Yeah. My ego liked the idea of making me feel better by reaching for food. So by the time I woke up in a hospital, I was 60 pounds heavier than I am tonight. I had a food addiction. That was just one of 5. And when I wasn't stuffing my mouth with food, ego said, just have another cigarette. So I was a pack-a-day smoker. And when I wasn't doing that, ego said, just work harder, distract yourself, put in those 12, 15 hours a day, 5.5 days a week. Because you don't have to feel. Mm-hmm. And when I wasn't doing that, I was just misbehaving with codependency. I was trying to fix my family, fix friends, fix companies, fix employers, fix employees, customers. It didn't matter. I had your answer. I had your solution. I know what you needed. At least I thought I did. And then when none of that shit worked, ego said, let's do one more thing I got up my sleeve for you that'll make you feel better. Let's just have sex and let's have a lot of it. So I had a sex addiction. And that didn't start when I got married. That started before I got married. It started as a teenager, and that just rolled into my adulthood. So you see, learning how to love yourself for me meant I had to, with honor and humility and love, invite ego to rest, to kind of semi-retire.
Mm-hmm.
I no longer want ego driving my car. I don't want ego in control. So I invite ego every day to sit in the back seat or rest, put a blanket over him and take a nap. And let me as the adult self learn how to parent myself, learn how to take care of that little boy's needs. Because he wants something every single day. He needs something. He's not resting. He's not sleeping 24/7. He's up. So how do we learn how to self-love? We have to start by learning how to take care of ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we love our cars. We know how to take care of them. Most of us know at every 3,000, 4,000 miles, you get an oil change. And some of us love our cars so much, we spend extra money now and we do a synthetic oil change. Why? Because the engine will last longer. We'll get better performance. Are we putting synthetic oil in our own bodies? Are we eating organic? Are we eating crappy meat? It's not, that's filled with hormones, antibiotics. Would we put that in our engine? No. I could tell you I go synthetic.
Yep.
On my car and my body today. Right? We know, most of us know that every other oil change, you rotate your tires. We do a better job in this society, generalizing and speaking in these words, taking care of our cars. We invest in our cars way more than we invest in ourselves. There's no light switch to learning how to love yourself. We have to be willing to do the investment. We have to be willing to take time every day for two areas. One of the areas you guys are doing really well right now, and everyone that's in this room with us is joining us in it. It's called self-improvement. We're investing.
Mm-hmm.
So I make the commitment to myself every day. I spend a minimum of 30 minutes to an hour doing some form of self-investment, whether it be a podcast, a YouTube video, reading something, but some form of expanding my knowledge and understanding of the true essence and meaning of what life is about and what my purpose is about today. My purpose used to be about making a lot of money. And I made a lot of money. I made millions in my career. Was I happy? Nope. Was I at peace? Oh, hell no. Were my relationships healthy? No. By the time I woke up, they were broken. Every single one of them. And through that process, I learned that everything that I thought was a truth, in fact, was a lie. And everything that I thought was a lie may, in fact, be the truth.
Yep.
So I had to be willing to put it all down. Say, what do I have to do to learn who I am? And what does that mean? Because when I woke up, I hated who I had become. But I didn't know who I was, as I said earlier. And so the process of self-love it's self-discovery. It's taking time each day to explore, to learn, like, what do you like? I didn't even know what kind of music I liked. My music was influenced by other people's opinions. I didn't have my own in my own home. Today, I use music as part of my spiritual practice. I listen to music that most people may not listen to, but I love it. It touches me at the heart space. It opens me up to be able to connect with my higher self and with the divine. But I have to show up every day. First, before I go to work, I have to do self-care. Self-care for me is getting out in nature. I used to think it was going to the gym, and I didn't like the gym, so I didn't do really well with that. But it's getting out in nature. It's doing something. It's just getting outside. It's connecting with nature in its finest form, and spending at minimum 30 minutes, sometimes up to 2.5, 3 hours each morning, very early, just getting out in nature, walking, hiking, riding a bicycle, wherever that space is that you can create or find that is calm for you, is quiet. is learning how to connect with yourself. And at first it felt really uncomfortable, but over time, the more I did it, I started to feel, I was aware that I was feeling better, and I was starting to like myself. And so getting out in nature for me was a gateway to learning how to like myself. And eventually that broke me wide open. It was a gateway to what I would refer to as self-compassion,
Mm-hmm.
which is forgiveness. And through that process of learning how to forgive myself and others, I fell in love. And I fell in love with myself. But it was a process that took time.
It's amazing.
And you could say, I work with some clients even today that they, at some point, they feel like they're doing better, they're doing well,
Mm-hmm.
and they kind of abandon the program. They abandon their program. I had a client recently acknowledge that to me. She said, I'm just in a flow right now with work, and so I don't want to disrupt the flow. So I don't want to do any more work right now. I'm good. And I think she's going to be surprised, because
Mm-hmm.
we can't abandon taking care of ourselves. We can, it's a choice, but it's typically not a happy ending. It's
Right.
typically not going to end so well.
Yeah, I was going through some of that recently. I was paying attention, way too much attention towards work, towards getting things done online, and I started to feel a certain way. I started to feel, and it could very well be why a lot of the things happened recently, to pull me away from that. And I literally had to take, like, it's been 2 or 3 days now that I haven't really done any work, but it's been healing and self-care and things like that I need to move this forward. Now I'm ready to get back into a groove, but not into that groove that I was in before. So yeah, wonderful conversation, Jay. Is there anything else that you would want to kind of wrap it up with? Anything that's on your mind, coming to your mind right now?
Well, I'm going to flip it on you.
Yeah.
What are you feeling right now, Christian? We had a couple of very powerful, I think three talks this week. Each day has been tremendous for me. I've enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
When I say I've enjoyed it, it's been very painful for you.
Yeah.
But what I've enjoyed is the process that we went through together. And I felt, and I still feel that there was some significant breakthroughs for you. And the reason that is because you showed up
Mm-hmm.
ready. You showed up. And, if we don't show up and we're doing work for somebody else, good luck. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
It only works when we're ready. Now, when someone else thinks that we need to be ready, we have to be ready to surrender. To surrender our old behaviors, our belief systems, and part of that process of learning how to love yourself. We touched on this week. Let's go with this perspective. It's learning how to love yourself. Truly, is about coming home.
Yeah.
It's a process of coming home to yourself at your heart space, your soul level. And we won't get there until we reconnect with our inner child.
Mm-hmm.
It's our inner child that's been home waiting for you to show up. He's been waiting a lifetime for somebody to show up and take care of him and love him. That little boy inside of you needs just a few things from you. He needs unconditional love. He needs nourishment, and he needs nurturing. Those are the three key things that boy needs. It's simple, not easy. It's simple. It's not easy because it takes commitment. It takes your willingness to acknowledge that you're no longer willing to ignore his needs because you're no longer willing to wait for someone to take care of his needs outside of you.
Mm-hmm.
Some people in the community may be saying, well, then where does your partner, where does Amber fit into this equation? Wait a minute. She's your wife. Isn't that her responsibility? Isn't that her role to be there to take care of you? And you're saying no. Why is it no?
Because if I'm not taking care of me, she can't. It's not possible. So I need to be there for myself first, and then she can do, and she needs to be there for herself first, and then we can come together and work after that. And all that's just a bonus, which is an incredible bonus, but
it's just a bonus. Sounds so trivial, but what you just described is a difference between there's two types of relationship. One is what's built around attachment.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the kind of relationship that I had in my life. And the other type, which is the healthy type, is one of connection. And what you're describing is when we're able to learn how to love ourselves, how to take care of ourselves, how to parent the most important child in your life. And if you don't have children, it's okay, because there is a child in your life that needs you to take care of them. And it's your own child. It's you, yourself. And so the connection comes in the sense that if Amber is investing in focusing on her needs first and taking care of herself through self-care, through self-improvement, and you're also running parallel, either alongside or parallel to a degree, and you're investing in yourself every day, when you guys do come together, the fireworks are going to be going off.
Yeah.
Because that's how it works.
Mm-hmm.
And there's so many ways to connect with a partner in a healthy way. I'm doing a show tomorrow morning. I've got a guest coming in from Mumbai, India. Her name is Dr. Priya Saklani. I know you know that name. Yeah. We're going to do a show tomorrow on conscious relationships. I heard her do a webinar a week or so ago, and it was brilliant. I reached out to her. She's been a prior guest on Real People, Real Stories. I said, would you be willing to come in so we can have this conversation that just expand upon what you're doing, what you did today? And so she'll be in tomorrow morning. It's 8:00 your time. It's a little early on the West Coast. I'm in Arizona. But, the other part why I bring this up about Dr. Priya is because the topic is on conscious relationships. The majority of us are not in conscious relationships. Why? Because we are unconscious. We're not awakened. We can't be awakened if we don't understand what self-care looks like and what it feels like. Mm-hmm. We're relationships, it's basically asleep.
Yep. We had a couple questions. One was, how do you know, or it was something about how do you know where to start with self-discovery? I can't find the question, but I wanted to bring it up. Where do you start with self-discovery?
Start.
Yeah.
Stop thinking. That's a beautiful question. And thank you so much for bringing that up. I love that question.
Mm-hmm. Me too.
Part of self-improvement is we have a belief system in modern America today that knowledge is power. We've all heard that statement. And I call BS on that.
Yeah, me
Knowledge
too.
is not power.
Mhm.
Knowledge is just knowledge. What power is action. Action is power because nothing changes. You could have a lot of certificates, you could have multiple degrees, and your life can be out of control. I know many people that
Yeah.
fit that description. Why? Because they're not taking the action steps to improve their own life. And they think if they just get another certificate or degree, they'll feel better about themselves. And it doesn't quite work out. They continue to struggle and they continue to layer all of their certificates and degrees. And I'm not the smartest guy in the room, and that's okay. I don't need to be. I don't want to be anymore. I, I just want to be a guy that's taking action, that's always moving forward. Um, Taking action means that I'm not thinking about it. I'm not trying. I'm not going to put it off to tomorrow. It means that just for today, as long as I'm gifted one more day, I'm going to do something today. Self care, how do we begin? Just put on your shoes. If it's cold out, put on your hat, put on your gloves. The cold doesn't stop me from going out in nature every single day. In the wintertime here last winter, we had mornings, it was 32 degrees. I was still outside in nature doing what I do, what I love, where I found my inner peace, where I found my connection with the
Amazing.
divine. So unless it's, lightning, thunder, um, find your space and start there. Start by taking baby steps, making it a big priority.
Hmm.
Start by just showing up for yourself every day, doing something.
Yep.
Just start.
Just start. Yep. For me, it was cutting out distractions. So it was turning off the social media, turning down the work, or at first, about 6 years ago, it was getting rid of TVs, paying attention to what I actually wanted instead of what's coming in from the outside. And yeah, there's a couple more questions here. Trying to scroll through. This one says, "Do you think you could be in a relationship with one person understanding that, but the other one does not?"
What do you think?
Uh, if you understand that, I don't think that you would want to be in a relationship with a person that does not understand that. So I don't think it's really matters if they understand it or not, because you understand it, and you're going to put the boundaries out to get what you want to bring in.
The challenge comes in, I think, when if you're ready with a partner and you both were unawakened, you both were living
Mm-hmm.
unconsciously, and you have an awakening, you have an event, something that touches your life, a pivotal moment or experience that begins your spiritual awakening or just your awakening, and your partner is not open and is not interested. Um, you have a choice in that moment. Many people start on their self discovery and they move in that direction. And at some point, one of a few things can happen. One thing that may happen is their partner may see the changes that are taking
Mm-hmm.
place, and they like what they're seeing, and they go, "Wow, can I have some of that?" It's kind of like if Amber's got a little dessert plate, and she's got this delicious dessert that
Yeah.
you see, and she's only got one fork, and she goes, "Wow, this is amazing." When you hear her starting to go, "This is wow." Like, don't you want to bite? Don't you want to taste that? Most of the time, we'd be crazy if she said, "You want to bite, honey?" What's the likelihood that you're going to say no?
Mm-hmm.
Right? So you got to make it appetizing. You have to be willing to make it
Right.
appetizing to where your partner is going to say, "I want some of that.
Mm-hmm.
Can I have some?" And they're asking for permission to come to the party. And of course, we're going to say, "Yes, please join me. I don't want to eat this cake by myself. I don't want to get fat. I want you to get fat with me. Now, the fat I'm talking about is the good fat, not the bad fat, right? So we can get good fat together. But then there's those partners that feel threatened. And that's the other side of the coin is
Mhm.
not everyone's going to want a piece of that pie. They're going to feel threatened. And then you're going to have to consider a couple of options. Are you willing to stay in a relationship with someone that you're no longer per se aligned with, that fundamentally you're not in alignment and in agreement, not from a judgmental standpoint, but from just your new understanding of the purpose of life and why you were here. And if you see your partner is making choices that are self-mutilating and abusive to themselves, it becomes an inner conflict. And so sometimes people do outgrow each other, and then you have an option, you have a choice. You could invite them to join you, or at some point you'll know when, not because you're going to think it through, but because your intuition is going to tell you what the best thing is for you. And if the
Mhm.
best thing for you is to get out, you'll know when it's the right time, not because you're going to think your way out, but because intuition is going to speak to you, and you're going to be in nature enough to know your truth and to know what's best for you. It's knowing when to set those boundaries from love.
Mhm. There's another question. How do we stay in self-love? That's a great question.
Yeah, it's a beautiful question. I love this.
Yeah.
I love this format. Wow. I love this. Thank you. Um, how do we stay in it? That was the question. How do we
Yep,
keep
that's the
showing up?
question.
How do we stay in self-love?
How do we stay in self-love?
Show up.
Yep.
Show up. It's that simple. You know, what I did was I learned about a year ago, I had to create what I call my non-negotiables. Now, if you want to stay in self-care or learn how to stay in self-love, create your own non-negotiables. Take a piece of paper and a pen, or open your notes app if you're a millennial, or that's where you feel comfortable, and just write down what are your non-negotiables that you're not willing to compromise. No compromising whatsoever for yourself, meaning you're not gonna say no today. You're gonna always say yes. You're gonna always block out that time of the day. You know how to schedule to go to the dentist. You know how to schedule to get that oil change again in the car, right? We unless we're going to a Jiffy Lube, we're not just rolling in and saying, I need an oil change. We schedule out every aspect of our life, but we lack scheduling out time
Self-love.
for ourselves. So you start your day scheduling out time consistently.
Mm-hmm.
No matter what, you schedule out time. You show up. And if you show up consistently, you see, here's the thing. We love our phones, but we also know that our phones have limitations. Our phones have only so much energy in a 12 or 24-hour period. So what do? We have pretty much a practice. We have a practice of when we're going to plug our phone in to get its charged, so that when we wake up in the morning, our phone's back to 100%. But we also know that if when we go to sleep, we don't have all our apps closed, well, by the time we wake up, we've got 30 new emails. Our phone energy is going to be depleted sometimes by 2 in the afternoon, and sometimes by 10:30 in the morning. And we know that if we don't plug our phone in that next day, we're not going to make it to the end of the evening. Our phone's going to die. It's going to lose its energy, right? Its battery charge is gone. Well, if we think of our own bodies, our own self, as our phone, as our mobile device, every morning or every night you charge your phone. Well, why do we think that we can get away with not recharging our own batteries to start our day, so that we're not depleted by 10:30 in the morning after we get 2 bad phone calls, or one bad meeting, or something that impacts us in a way that takes energy from us? Could just be a
Mm-hmm.
conversation with a friend or a relative, or an employer, a boss, or a client. So the best way that we don't lose it is we have to charge it like we do our phone every single day. We consistently show up for our phone. We have to consistently show up for our body, understanding that our body is going to get depleted of energy. Now, there are things that we can do to help put an extra booster charge on our body. One of the simplest ways to do it is called H2O, water. I can't tell you how many clients that come to me and they suffer with migraine headaches, or they suffer with anxiety or depression. Water is one of the quickest ways to improve your health. I used to think I drank 4 ounces of water most of my life. I thought I was getting my water through coffee and Diet Coke. Both of those are diuretics, and both of those were depleting me. Oh, and of course, at night if I'd have a glass of wine, or I was killing myself because my brain, which is a vital organ, was basically running on dry. I had a dry sponge. And I was depending on that dry sponge to give me clarity. I was being paid to be a visionary in corporate America, a lot of money. Yet my best thinking was compromised because my brain was dry. The brain is made up of 80% water. Yet I wasn't fueling it. I wasn't giving it synthetic fuel that it needed to operate in peak performance. Start with water, half your body weight at minimum. And then for every cup of coffee you drink, you have to add maybe another 20 ounces of water. You'll improve your energy. Yeah, you'll go to the bathroom more, but that's a small price to pay to feel better. It's an easy place to start. Just increase your water content. Simple, not easy.
Mm-hmm.
Some people say, I don't like the taste of water. Well, then add a lemon to it, add a lime to it, add an essential oil like a peppermint. Add a flavor to your water. Start there. Great. Beautiful question. I love that. Now, the thing is is that we think like our ego is going to tell us that tomorrow, I wake up tomorrow, I'm too busy. I can take a day off. I'll do it. I'll start back tomorrow. Again, that's where ego wants to get into control and take the control of the steering wheel again. And it's our job as the parent to say to the ego, no, no, no. Because when we say no to somebody else, including our own ego, we're saying yes to ourselves, right? So ego's going to want to sabotage us and say, no, you're too busy today. We got lots of work to do. Get to work. And that's when we get to parent ourselves and say, no, thank you. We'll get to work. Because when we get to work, we're going to be more productive. We're going to have more breakthroughs. We're going to have an amazing day at work. Why? Because I'm going to first take care of myself. Connect. That's how we start to experience self-love. And it's learning how to say no, thank you to everybody else. Because when we say no, thank you to everybody else, we're saying yes, thank you to ourselves.
Absolutely.
How many times have we said no, thank you to someone else, and then that's not enough. We then got to give them the reason why we're saying no, thank you. We feel like we owe them an explanation. Mm-hmm. We don't. We can just come from love and kindness and say, no, thank you. However, I appreciate you so much for inviting me, but it's just not a good time, or I'm not going to be able to make it. And leave it at that. We don't have to come up with excuses why we say no to people. Because they're not going to understand the truth anyway. Most of them won't. What do you mean you got to take care of yourself? How could you not come? Because they want you to give them something that they're not doing for themselves. They want you to fill them up. They want you to make them feel better. But before I make you feel better, if it's a conflict for me taking care of myself, I got to say, no, thank you. But I love you. I love me more, though. Mm-hmm. Any other good questions? Hit me up. Let's do this, amazing. Christian.
Just a lot of comments. Keep water in sight. Remember to drink it. This is my ego. Love this. Thank you both so much. From Trinity. Jody says, make time for self-care for sure. Katie Tucker says, powerful. Zenny says, oh, yes. Yeah, that's about it. Oh, Trinity says, morning rituals are the least of my or at least I must do things before anything else. It's a saved it saved and changed my life. Morning rituals.
Katie says,
Yeah.
"Why do we resist drinking enough water?" And the simple answer from my heart space is because, well, what you resist persists. And ego really is not interested. Ego's a slippery cat.
Mm-hmm.
Ego really doesn't. I don't believe ego is looking out for our best interest. Ego is just lazy. Ego says you don't need that water. Just drink what you like. Why we resist it is because ego still got her hands on a 10 and 2 position on the steering wheel. When we wake up and understand that it's ultimately my responsibility to make the best choices for myself that I am aware of exist, even when it's in disalignment with what ego wants. Let me tell you something about ego. I hike every morning, and I hike with a compromised blood flow, which means in my leg, which means that I hike in pain. My pain level is somewhere between a 7 and 9, 365. Ego tells me every single morning, take the day off. Not today. You deserve it. You just did this 6 days in a row. Why do you need to hike one more day? Why do you need to do it? Just rest. Just go to work. Sleep in. That's ego's way of taking care of me. Now, what ego doesn't understand is that if I don't get out in nature, I'm not going to show up as my best version of myself for myself today. Ego doesn't understand that if I take 3 weeks off, right now the blood vessels that are creating a blood flow down to my toes could collapse because they're not as big as an artery is. And if they collapse, I'm in a wheelchair. Ego doesn't understand that. I understand that as the parent of myself. So I say, ego, I know what's best for me. And I'm going to overrule you on this. And I'm going to roll out of bed. I'm going to get dressed, even though it's cold out, or even though I'm tired, and even though I know I'm going to hike in pain. But I still go out and do it. Because I know the truth. I know what I need. And ego's no longer going to manage me or my life. Ego served its purpose. Ego got me this far. But I no longer want ego to manage my choices. Christian, let me ask you this. I'd like to invite you to answer perhaps the last question of this conversation is, what do you think are your biggest takeaways from the last 3 or 4 days that we've gotten together?
Well, I got to see, it wasn't even really takeaways. It was like embodiments. It was like, because well, for me, what I talked about during this session, the boundaries and how the boundaries were a service to myself. And that service to myself was the most important thing because it allowed me to guide myself again, as opposed to putting a boundary in place so somebody else didn't cross that. It was like I put a boundary in place to honor myself and to guide myself without having to rely on an external force or external thing, I guess you would say. So it really brought my level of self-love and self-discovery up a couple notches, I would say. And in a time, especially during an experience where you're going through a lot of questioning, what I learned is that the one thing that you can rely on is your ability to guide yourself. So instead of saying, what are they going to do? What's she going to do? What should I do? Or what should I do for these people? It was, what do you do for you?
Mm.
And go through the motion of doing that for you. And when I did that, everything around me started moving with that flow too. So it was really incredible. It was scary, but I just said, okay, I'm going to put one foot forward at a time. And I don't have to worry about what they're going to do. I can just keep putting my foot forward. I don't have to worry about who is okay with that, because I'm okay with that. So it was incredible. And the last week since our previous premium group session, we talked about duality and how to hold space for the negative and how to accept the negative, and even got a little controversial and talked about how the negative can be more beneficial than even positive things. But the strive is for the positive, obviously. But I went through this at an extreme level this week, and I was able to come out of it saying, and not even saying, but knowing that it didn't matter what happened around me, because I happened around me.
Say that one more time, that last part. Who happened around you?
I happened around me. So like it didn't matter what was going on, because I knew what I wanted and I put the boundaries in for myself and not for other people to react around those things, for me to guide myself.
What's been beautiful about this process is, well, first and foremost, is that you reached out.
Mm.
You sent me a note and you said, hey, I'm going through some significant challenges in this moment. Are you available? That is huge.
Yeah.
That took courage. The second thing I want to point out to you, Christian, is that you were in a crisis that had created, you were living in a sympathetic nervous system response mode, which means your body was flooded with the fight or flight hormone, cortisol. And when we're in fight or flight, look, when we're being chased by a lion or a tiger, it's do or die.
Mm-hmm.
We're not thriving. We're running for our life. Now, that's a good moment to have when we're being chased by a lion or tiger, but to live in it 24/7, we're not really engineered and built as humans to live in a constant state of fight or flight. Yet, many of us do spend most days and nights living in that experience because we're in our brain and our thoughts, our mind is thinking, worry, and stress, and it becomes addictive. We get addicted to that because the other hormone that is released when we're in the sympathetic nervous system response is adrenaline. Adrenaline floods our body. So we're talking about these are natural hormones that are released in our body, and we're then reacting to the experience, to the feelings. So be able to watch you navigate over the last couple of days, to be able to navigate you from in that cortisol experience, a fight or flight, to be able to watch you open yourself up to receive and to be open to hear what you needed to hear has been an incredible gift. It's been beautiful to witness. And the process, of course, brought you and I connected at a whole nother level. I mean,
Yeah.
we've cried together before,
Mhm.
but we cried again over the last couple of days. I mean, it's powerful when we're in the moment, in the flow of truly understanding the process of learning how to take care of yourself and how to turn off the cortisol and bring yourself to what's referred to as a parasympathetic response, which is the healthy hormones to flood your body. And those are the endorphins. They refer to those as the runner's high. We don't hear
Yeah.
that too much anymore. But it's the good feelings that flood your body is to where you felt stronger, you felt at peace, you gained strength to have clarity in your mind as to what your next steps are to take care of yourself through this crisis. And none of this would have happened if you hadn't reached out to me
Mhm.
and if you had thought that you could think your way through to a solution. Now, you may have gotten there,
It took
but
surrendering. It took surrendering to on many levels, but it also I realized that I was at a point where I was like, okay, I need to reach out for a I need to talk to somebody. And I need to talk to somebody that has insight on self-guidance and and this ability. And that's exactly why I reached out to you. And I'm so incredibly grateful that I did, because it was a major breakthrough. And it literally felt like the world around me was crumbling, but I was growing bigger. And it didn't even matter. Like, obviously I had feelings about, I was going through processes and stuff like that, and some fear, but I was like, what matters is my ability to guide myself right now, my ability to keep intact the most important thing, and then I can be in a position to possibly help others. But I'm not in that position until I know that I'm over it myself. And it was the most incredible experience to go through like that level of torment and be pulled above it through your own experience, by changing your experience. So it was something. I don't even know how to explain it, but
well, you did the
I'm
best you can.
grateful. You
Yeah.
asked you asked me yesterday, what are you feeling right now? And I said, I wrote it down. I said, Jay, what are you feeling right now? Love, joy, gratitude. And you said what you're feeling is peace. It's all the elements of peace when somebody would be in complete chaos.
And then we took it one step further. And I said, what's behind that emotion, that physical feeling? You see, we talk about feelings, we throw them around like a football on a Sunday afternoon. But I'm not talking about the feelings that we throw around like a football. I'm talking about the feelings that we can actually have awareness of how our body is physically responding, what it feels like inside. Most of the time, we don't give ourselves permission to even go to the awareness of how is my body reacting in this moment? What does it feel like physically?
Mm-hmm.
Now, that's the level at which we got, was to really feel into the feeling. And that's where the breakthroughs truly happen, when we realize how it's truly impacting us in a physical moment.
Mm-hmm.
taking it to the next level, when I said to you, okay, so you're feeling this inner peace, but ultimately, what does that even feel like? I said, it's one word. Do you recall what that word was?
Presence, I believe, wasn't it?
You said that, and I said, okay, that's accurate. But if you think about it, when we feel trapped, in a circumstance of any kind, we're in a cage.
Mm-hmm.
And what happens when we break out of a cage?
Freedom.
Boom.
Yep.
Tell me what that feels like right now.
It's I don't even know how to describe it. It's supernatural. But it's I guess you would say like ultimate truth, which is actually what my shirt means. Hold on to truth.
Beautiful.
But yeah, I would say ultimate truth, or I don't even want to say unbreakable, but I want to say like it's supernatural. You can't even really describe it. And it was incredible. It is incredible.
It for me, it feels at times like I'm levitating.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like a strength, an inner strength that we don't know what it's possible to feel, to experience. But it's just that knowing. It's freedom is the knowing
Mm-hmm.
that I'm okay, that I'm ready to take care of myself. I'm ready to set healthy, loving boundaries for me with other people so that I can protect the most important child in my life. That's myself. That's freedom.
Amazing. Wow. Amazing. Well, I think that's a good place to cut it off. I have to say thank you very much, Jay, for everything, for helping me through this, for getting on here, and for showing up. And I look forward to many more with you.
You feeling it right now?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. You know, it's a beautiful thing when we give ourselves permission to just feel, and just knowing that we're going to be okay, no matter what, no matter how it turns out for other people around us, that we're going to be okay. Why? Because we are okay. We are okay. Just right here, right now.
Mm-hmm.
You are loved, Christian. That little boy inside is one lucky kid. Do you know why?
Why?
Because he has you.
Thanks. Thank you. Somebody said we are fucking okay. That's great.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, my friend, you got me. It only took us an hour to get here.
I know, right? But it's tears of joy, you know.
Yes.
It's incredible.
Yeah, this is how it happens. Just keep showing up for yourself and then show up for others after you've taken care of yourself. Yeah, I was telling yesterday. I'm gonna just wrap this up. Give some inspiration and hope to your community. Is that there was a time in my life I was an executive senior vice president of a corporation in Southern Cal, and I was intimidated by the CEO who was my boss. He was in what's called YPO, Young Presidents Organization. There's a global organization of owners of companies that you have to meet certain criteria to be in. And I was intimidated because I had a few of them on my board of directors. I had to make presentations to them every quarter. I had a couple of clients from overseas that were part of YPO, so I was very much aware of the group. Well, come full circle, I'm now out of corporate America. Now I do the work I do, and I was hired. A group of 7 YPOers came in from Philadelphia for a retreat this week in Arizona. And I got hired by a 5-star resort to spend 4 hours with these 7 presidents of their own companies, coaching them on how to improve, how to reduce stress in your life and improve your focus through the 5, they thought was the 5 senses. And I share with them there's actually a 6th sense. But the full circle is that for me, the first circle was, these are people that I was intimidated by in my own ego space. Even though I had achieved significant success in my career, I still felt intimidated and less than compared to them. And here I was yesterday morning coaching for 4 hours these presidents that flew in from Philadelphia to spend half their day with me, for me to be their mentor and teacher, to share with them what I've learned about the purpose of life.
Wow.
Everything is possible. We can achieve and we can change everything that we need to and want to in our life. We just have to have the courage, surrender, and take action. That's all it takes. Just willingness. And then buckle your seatbelt, because you'll have a ride of your life. And I want to just thank you for inviting me on this evening. I hope sometime I'll be invited back.
Yeah, absolutely.
And please send my love to your beautiful bride, your beautiful partner.
Yeah, I will definitely send my love to Mary as well.
Are you okay?
I'm great.
Yeah?
I'm
feeling
excited.
good?
I'm feeling good.
Okay.
How about you?
I am floating right now. I'm just filled with so much. I'm filled with gratitude, and I'm humbled. I'm humbled that I'm able to touch other people like yourself and
big time.
Create impact in someone else's life, inspire them. So I want to thank you for that.
Thank you. Big time.
Showing up.
All right. Thank you so much, Jay. I really, really appreciate you. And we'll be in touch soon. And thank you guys for tuning in tonight. I know it was a little bit different than normal, but I hope you enjoyed it. It looks like everybody enjoyed it. And for those catching the replay too, thank you. All right.
That's a wrap.
That's a wrap. We'll talk to you guys soon. I'm going to end the broadcast and I'll stay on with you for a minute, Jay.